I hear a lot of complaints about Gen Z. People who work with them that say they're too lethargic, or they don't speak up enough in meetings, or they don't understand why they're always glued to their phones. And then I talk to Gen Z workers, and they're describing these feelings of anxiousness, being afraid to speak up, wondering if they said the right thing. They're not sleeping at night. Not because they're up doom scrolling, although they do a lot of that, but because they're wondering, is tomorrow the day that I walk in and I'm going to get fired? You have two groups of people sitting in the same meetings, in the same rooms, having the same conversations, and yet they are experiencing them so differently. And one group has the power to change those dynamics, and it's not the one that's feeling anxious.
Hey, hey, tell me more.
Gen Z's apparent disengagement is almost often more likely dysregulation. Emotional dysregulation is defined as a multi-dimensional deficit involving a lack of emotional awareness, an inability to control impulsive behaviors when distressed, and a failure to use situationally appropriate strategies to modulate emotional responses in order to meet individual goals. In practice, this is Gen Z doing whatever it is they need to do to survive. So what looks like apathy on the surface is often hypervigilance in disguise. It is them looking to make sure that this is a safe place for me to show up as myself, maybe with my deficiencies, and be okay. I don't fault them for that. We live in a time and place where the social contracts have been broken, where the situations that people walked into 30, 40 years ago from a work perspective, hey, I'm gonna work here, you're gonna take care of me, I'm gonna do my thing, that no longer exists, and Gen Z is simply fighting for their piece of the pie. Now here is where this gets difficult. Leaders are making personnel decisions not based on the psychological framing of the person in front of them, but on what they see. This anxious person that's in front of them is going to get a low performance review because they're not meeting standards. The person who gets promoted is the person who appears to be more confident. Often what is happening in the moment is that Gen Z employee who maybe isn't showing up fully the way that you would love them to, is they have the skills, they have the giftings. I mean, they made it through the interview process, right? But what they need is someone to help create an arena in which they can feel comfortable enough to shine. According to a Deloitte study from 2025 that surveyed about 23,000 workers across 44 countries, 40% of Gen Z workers reported feeling stressed or anxious all or most of the time. Now, this is incredibly important. I love data. And I know men lie, women lie, numbers don't. There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. But if you've got 40% of respondents telling you the same thing, what we learn is that this is not some fringe incident, but it is nearly half of a generation telling you what they're feeling and what they're experiencing. Can we listen? Can we sit back and move outside of ourselves and our experiences and say that we got it all together and go, these people are going through something that is unique and significant to them, and I want to help? Here's another big issue in this conversation for us. If you look at the academic literature, a lot of it will say that there are no generational differences, that it's really more about life stage. And once we get to the same life stage, then we're all just the same. And there is a fundamental flaw in that assumption. It is that the 25-year-old, 30-year-old Gen Zer is going to be the exact same as the 65-year-old boomer as once they reach that stage, as though they're operating under the same conditions. The 65-year-old boomer, when they were 30, was already married with 4 kids and owned a home and got their MBA for free, basically. That is not the same world that the 30-year-old has grown up in. The present 30-year-old, the oldest members of Gen Z, grew up in the post-9/11 security state. They watched the 2008 financial crisis. They walked out with more student loan debt than any generation before them. The cost of college now for a lot of institutions can be anywhere near between $60,000 and $100,000 a year. They walked into a world in which they were told to code, and then AI came in and said, hey, we're going to take that job from you. They needed to switch jobs every 2 to 3 years because the way performance metrics were measured and the way, promotions were handled was it made more sense for you to leave and come back than it was for you to stay and try to get the promotion. The average person buying a home is 40. Their first home is 40. People are delaying marriage or choosing not to get married. They're delaying having kids or choosing not to have kids. They are also a sicker generation than any generation before them. But you're going to tell me that this 30-year-old is going to be the exact same as a 65-year-old. The problem with academic literature is that it often sits several years behind the present cultural moment because we need time for people to research the moment, to back up what the other people said, to back up what the other people said, to back up what the other people said, before we can actually get to what is happening here and now. So the academic literature will tell you there's no difference between generations, but the popular literature, as they call it, will tell you we're sitting in a moment of crisis. And I think for many of you watching this video, you yourself are saying, I know what I see in the room in front of me. This is my bias, but I don't think we can wait for the literature to catch up. We have to approach this issue right here and right now. When it comes to understanding Gen Z, the work of the neuroscientists back me up, okay? They say that exposure to childhood trauma can impact brain development over time. Think about, again, what they lived through. School shooting drills were normal. Post 9/11, security state, growing up, going through puberty on social media is just hell in itself. The endless bullying. And the effects of this childhood trauma, they affect your executive functioning, your emotional regulation, your disassociation, and so many other things. The brain that grows up under constant uncertainty developed a nervous system that is wired for threat detection. This is why they are so anxious. They have been trained and conditioned to live on high alert. Gen Z simply evolved in the world that they were raised in. And then they brought that evolution in to work with them. And when your mind and body is constantly wired for threat detection, what happens when you go into work and you get that look from your boss? When you get that random Slack that says, hey, can we talk? Your body can't properly associate what is a physical and harmful threat from what is a mental threat versus what is innocuous. Are we understanding who's in front of us? Or are we still trying to import our views and our values onto them? The fact of the matter is, our brains, who we are as people, we need to feel safe before we're able to learn, create, take risks, collaborate. People need to know that this is a place in which I can show up and I can give my best self. This is the core of psychological safety. If you've been playing one of those drinking games and you were waiting for me to say that word, there you go, psychological safety, because it sits at the core of all that we do and of who we are. We keep saying we want to get the best out of our Gen Z workers, but then we don't create environments that make them feel safe enough to be their best selves. We don't have the patience and grace enough with them to say, let me walk with you through this thing. We're expecting them to come in as these fully formed products as though they have the experience. It is astounding to me that we are asking people coming out of college to apply for entry-level jobs that require 5 years of experience. You want to know why these kids are so anxious and so nervous and so frustrated? Because they've been told since elementary school that life is one big competitive game and they need to start building the resume from 7 years old if they want to make it in this life. You got 5 years of experience coming out of college? So you've been working since high school? Did you have a summer break? Did you have time to just be a kid and have fun? And then we wonder why they're burning out by 25, 26, 27. So the question for leaders becomes, what kind of environment are you creating? Is it one where your Gen Z workers can feel as though they're psychologically safe? Because we all know what it's like to be in that room with that boss, who everyone looks to them after every sentence. Was this okay? Did I say the right thing? Is this good? Am I approved? Do I have what you need? How can you show up as your best self or give your best work when you are constantly in defense mode? According to Mental Health America's 2024 Mind the Workplace report, 71% of Gen Z employees have unhealthy work scores. the highest among all generations present in the workforce. In the same study, 64% of Gen Zers reported not feeling confident expressing their opinions at work, and 60% disagreed that they could be themselves. Gen Z is not dealing with abstract general anxiety. This is specific to the workplace. This is something that we cannot skirt around or pretend isn't on us or isn't our fault. They're telling us that this is what they feel at work. So instead of trying to blame everything else and look at every other answer or every other possible conclusion, how about we listen to the voices that matter, the ones who are experiencing the pain? So if the majority of Gen Z is showing up anxious and uncertain, then we need actual tools and methods for helping them grow into the best version of themselves. So as always, I've got like a little list for you. The first thing is consistency over charisma. It's great to be the rah-rah fun manager, but if you as the manager, you are the thermostat. You set the temperature. And if your Gen Z employees are walking in every day unsure of what version of you they are going to get, then they're never going to build the safety necessary to grow into the best version of themselves, because they're constantly going to be playing off of your mood and what they're going to get from you that day. The second thing is feedback that clearly distinguishes the person from the performance. Now, this is more important than we realize, because far too many of us, we've attached our identities and our self-esteem to our jobs, to who we are at work. So when we get feedback at work, we take it as an attack on ourselves. It's not you did this wrong, it is you are wrong. And so what Gen Z needs is just a little bit more clarity in this area. The feedback I'm giving to you is not about you as a person, it's about the job. And I know that might feel extra to some of us, but if this is what people need, then we can just give it to them. It's not costing us anything. It's not being extra. It's recognizing who is in the room and meeting them where they are. There's no reason that Gen Z should have to experience some of the pain and mess that we dealt with early in our careers simply because we did. Not everything is a rite of passage. Not everything is a formative experience. Some things are just toxic and unhealthy. And it is on us to correct that. That's it. They don't need to carry forward our bad habits and our bad experiences because it's just unnecessary, and that's it. The third thing we can give Gen Z is explicit permission to not know. You don't need to walk in a finished product. You don't need to have all the answers. In fact, saying I don't know is one of the most important things you can do, because then we can teach you. Now, I've been very open about my first job out of college being an absolute mess. This was the place nicknamed where careers go to die. But one of the most important things that I got from there was in the interview process. I was asked a lot of questions that I didn't know the answer to. Listen, I shouldn't have been a finance major. I wasn't good at it. I didn't like it. Wrong match of skills and gifts. But they gave me a job anyway. And a part of the reason is that when they asked a lot of those interview questions, I was like, I don't know. And my boss said to me is that my ability to say I don't know displayed a level of humility that let him know that I was going to be teachable. I didn't try to BS my way through some answers. I didn't try to word salad my way to a solution. Instead, I said, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. So when we give Gen Z explicit permission to not know, it creates a level of comfort and safety that says, hey, I'm here to teach you. Be coachable, because I got you. Now, this isn't just for managers trying to figure out how to understand their Gen Z employees. Gen Zers, if you've made it this far, there's action here for you as well. Because the ability to name your experience is not the same as being defined by it. So you, as a Gen Zer, you need to be able to say, I experienced this, I feel this is what I'm going through, but this is not who I am. Language and framing and context, all of those things matter. But you also have to be able to work through it. The goal is not to become someone who never feels anxious at work, because I don't think that's possible. Anxiety is a part of life. It has been with us since the very earliest days of human activity. The goal is to be able to be someone who feels anxiety at work, but keeps going anyway. Be someone who takes that anxiety, properly processes it, and you keep on moving forward. You don't get there overnight. That takes time, it takes skill, and you're gonna learn how to do that through the course of your career. But the first step is knowing that what's happening inside of you has a name and it has a reason. You're not so fundamentally broken beyond repair. But healing starts with how you show up. So Gen Z, I'm calling you in to show up and be ready. I hear organizations all the time asking this question: how do I keep my Gen Z employees? The answer is simple, but also hard. You have to create the kind of environments where their nervous systems can be settled enough to do their best work. That's not easy. It is a challenge. And before you say it, because I know you're thinking it, this is not coddling. It's not. It's following what we know to be true in our guts and in neuroscience, that every generation has needed this. Every generation has needed psychological safety. Gen Z is just the first one to be really loud about it. And I applaud them for that. Because the toxic work environments that many of us came up in, the formative experiences that have colored the way we've gone through our careers, they were not necessary and they don't need to continue. And we can create something better. For Gen Z, for Alpha, for Beta, and I don't know what's after Beta. Would it be Charlie? Listen, we can figure that out another time. But leaders, if you're trying to figure out how to build this environment, I got you. This is the work that I do. Let me help coach you and your organization through this. According to SHRM research, 61% of Gen Z workers would strongly consider leaving their current job if offered one with significantly better mental health benefits. Organizations aren't losing Gen Z because of pay. They're losing them because the environment isn't safe enough to stay in. So let me help you build a better culture. And for Gen Zers, if I'd named some things that you're experiencing, maybe given you some language for some problems you've incurred, but you don't know what to do next, join my next Gen Z cohort, where I take groups of Gen Zers and I coach them through, over the course of about 10 weeks, how to show up at work, how to prepare for life, how to answer some of those big questions that might be looming for you. The whole point in all of this, whether you're a leader or you're in Gen Z or you're a Gen Z leader, we're all just trying to figure this out, but we don't have to do it alone. Now, you might be watching this from either end of the spectrum and thinking to yourself, CJ, I'm good. I'm just going to tough my way through it. I'm not going to coddle these kids. And hey, I'm just going to be anxious and depressed at work. Really? We've been at this way too long. We all need help in this life. So let's get it where it's being offered. And maybe it's not me. Maybe you want to go get it from somewhere else. Honestly, that's fine. Because what do I know? I'm just some guy from Brooklyn.